Is your homeschool bringing you joy, or is it stressing you out? If you've done this before, how many times have you planned the year and then realized you've planned too much? And then do you feel guilty if your plans derail? I mean, you planned all of these things and it's not going to work. It's too much. You know you want your homeschool to look different, but you're not quite sure how to make that happen. So, Mom, we're going to have a heart-to-heart because I have been doing this for 6 years. Upcoming is my 7th. And I have to remind myself of these things every single year. You're not alone. So if you happen to watch my 6th grade curriculum picks, in that video, I asked you guys how early in the year do you choose your curriculum, because this was early for me and I just knew this was going to happen. I went to homeschool convention. I knew that I would see other things. I knew that I would get a refocus. I knew I would get inspiration and want to try something new. And that is exactly what happened. I didn't even realize that even with the experience that I have, I was still starting to fall into the old mindset of what I had done before. And that's not what I want. So I'm making this video because I have to kind of add a little update in here. Here's what I had done. I bought the curriculum. I had mapped out my whole year to decide what weeks we were doing school, when we were taking breaks, and my goal was that we were going to finish school in May, like early May, because when May comes around, Mama's brain dead. I'm like done, I'm finished at that point. So that's the goal, to be done by the first week of May. And when do I need to do school in order to make that happen? So I did all of that, and I filmed the family subject videos. So I was splitting that into 3 separate videos, and then I went to this conference. Like, I've been editing these videos, trying to get them out, and I went to this conference. And I'm starting to change my mind. I went to the Illinois Christian Home Educators Conference. I vlogged it, so check out these videos if you have not seen it. Super cool. I got snippets of some of the speakers so you can get an idea of what this conference is like. The first thing that happened from this conference that kind of got me thinking was we went there with friends who are brand new to homeschooling. So she went to one of Dorinda Wilson's workshop about slowing down. One thing that Dorinda had said in that workshop was, your kids really don't need anything but reading, writing, and arithmetic until high school. Until high school. I can't say that I disagree with that. Now, that's not to say that you won't cover science and history, but you will follow your children's interests. You're not going to like shove it down their throat if they're not interested. So in my case, my daughters love science. They love science experiments. They love doing that stuff with their hand, especially if it involves mixing all kinds of stuff together and creating concoctions. I mean, how many children of yours love slime? I can't stand the slime. But my daughters love making the slime because they love just mixing all this stuff together. But they're really not interested in history. So this is when my wheels are turning. Like, why am I feeling like I have to buy all of these curriculums and I have to get through them? I have to admit, when I was making that year plan, the plan was making me happy because I had a plan and I had a lot of breaks in there. And I had other stuff, like not just doing the curriculum every single week. I had, like, December is set apart so we can do a Christmas unit study. Thanksgiving week is set aside so that we can have some flexibility there. So when I had mapped it all out and I had seen how long it was going to take us to get through the history curriculum, I hadn't admitted this to myself, but I felt a little bit of the joy being taken. So I saw how long it was going to take for us to finish history. Even if we start a lesson or 2 in July, we were still going to be doing history until May. And that was if I stick to this schedule, if nobody gets sick, if nothing else goes wrong. Okay, so this is the mindset that I'm kind of in, I'm trying to work through. I can be flexible with science because I bought science units, and because you know that I love the good and the beautiful. So spoiler alert, that's what our science is going to be, and then you'll just see which units we're doing. But anyway, those I feel like they have a little bit more flexibility because I did start to shift my thinking. Like, just because I bought this many units does not mean I have to complete this many units, because what if you want to camp out on a lesson for more than one day? What if the one lesson you do, like say, like we started arthropods this year, and when we learned about dragonflies, everybody was fascinated with the dragonflies. What if we want to learn about dragonflies for 2 weeks, not just one day? We should have the freedom to be able to do that. So I kind of started to let go in that way. And I was also thinking nature walks. I want to get out in the parks more. I want to go explore my state more for field trips. That is science. Why do we keep thinking science is in a curriculum? Why are we in this mindset that we even have to do every single lesson in the curriculum? You don't. I started to come around to see this, but when I went to the conference, I saw this workshop by Heidi St. John called Homeschooling Held Hostage. She gave this really awesome visual aid of the elf being like tied up, and all the little Lego guys were lined up, and these are all the things that we hold ourselves hostage to. The world's expectations, everybody else's expectations, curriculum. We have this expectation of what school is supposed to look like. You know why we have that in our head? Unless you were homeschooled yourself, you probably went to a school designed around the modern education idea. You know what modern education is? It was created around the turn of the century, about the same time as the assembly line was created. And the educators of that time thought, wow, Henry Ford's got it figured out. You just have everybody doing the same thing. You just you build a car by doing one piece at a time. And they thought, I wonder if we can use this idea for education. And the one-room schoolhouse went away. That's a classical education, the one-room schoolhouse. You may not realize that, but that's what you're probably trying to design in your own homeschool. But we were not educated with a one-room schoolhouse approach. We were educated with a modern education approach, which is group everything together, everybody educated exactly the same. So we're being held hostage by our own upbringing, by what schools and administrators around us tell us. We hold ourselves hostage by comparing our homeschool to other homeschoolers too. Again, I love YouTube. I really, really do. I find it very helpful. But I also have to check myself sometimes. Now, there's something to be said for watching it and, getting ideas, or, you're curious about a family, or you're curious about all that stuff. I'm just saying, for me, I have to be careful about that, because I find myself comparing my homeschool, comparing myself, comparing my children to somebody else. I'm unique. Our homeschool is unique. My children are unique. So I mentioned that I live in Illinois, and it's not super heavy on restrictions to homeschoolers. They do have some bare minimum restrictions, though, which is you have to teach the certain amount of subjects. But it doesn't say how many lessons you have to do, how many weeks, how many days. It's pretty broad. So I do need to teach science and history to my children, but how I teach that is up to me. Why am I feeling guilty about fitting in all of the lessons of this curriculum? Schools don't do that. They start out with these textbooks. They never finish their textbooks. So if a textbook has 180 lessons, the public schools, the private schools, they are not getting through every lesson, guaranteed. In fact, at this homeschool conference that I just went to, one of the things she said about high school even, completion, she said 75% to 80% completion is complete. Like, that's the expectation, because they know things come up, or you might want to camp out on something longer. You do not have to finish the book. Like, why do I keep why do I keep feeling like I have to? You don't. So how do I teach science and history to my younger ones? Because again, Dorinda Wilson said, your kids don't really need anything but reading, writing, and arithmetic until high school, because let's think about this. Think about your own education, grade school education, that is. What do you really remember from science or history from your grade school years? I can honestly say I don't even remember that much from those subjects from my high school years. And if I'm really being honest, okay, I have learned the most about history as an adult. So why am I bringing all of this up? Because I want my homeschool to be a joy. I want my children to love learning. I want them to experience the wonder of getting to follow their own interests, to experience a relaxed day and not feeling like a relaxed day that's productive, mind you. I'm not saying I want to be lazy. I don't want to be yelling at them because we didn't get it all done. Albert Einstein. Not everything that counts can be counted. He said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, but expecting a different result. I mean, that's our education system. And that's what we keep falling back into the mindset of ourselves. So I guess what I'm saying is we're insane. Everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, he will spend its whole life believing he is stupid. That's what our assembly line modern education is doing. They want you to be able to climb a tree. And that's the type of student they're trying to crank out. Well, what if you're a fish? As a homeschooler, I have freedom to say, you know what, this child, you're a monkey, you're a fish, you're a lion, and tailor their education to those strengths. And yet I keep falling back to the curriculum. The last thing that Albert Einstein said that the fact checkers are going to say, supposedly. Education is that which remains when one has forgotten everything he learned in school. So think back to your own education and what you actually retained. I mean, I feel like this even with math. Unfortunately, when you're looking at college, you have to consider how to get into college, the things that they're going to require. But it's just sad as a whole, because if I'm going to go to college to be a nurse, how much math do I really need? I don't need calculus. So why do we keep enslaving ourselves to somebody else's standards? The best thing that you can do for your homeschool and for your curriculum choices, pray about it and ask God what He wants for your homeschool. If you seek Him, you will find Him. This homeschool conference reminded me of something that I already know, but I literally have to remind myself this every single year when I start feeling stressed, especially about curriculum. The curriculum is not why I'm homeschooling. I'm not homeschooling so that my children can have a superior education. I think my children are getting a superior education, but that's not why I'm doing it. I'm homeschooling it because of the Bible verse in Mark 8:36, that says, "For what does it profit a man if he gain the whole world, but forfeit his soul?" What are these things? What does this education even matter if our children's souls are lost? I'm educating my children to give them the education that they require, but I am insulating them so that I can train them up in the way that they should go. I'm educating them for their souls. That is my number one why. And yet I'm stressed about the curriculum. So here is a takeaway for you, Mom. And I do this, so I'm just telling you this is what you should do. Somebody suggested that after you pray about it, talk about it with your husband. What is your vision for your homeschool? You need a vision statement. What is your number one why? And write it down. Maybe you have 10 goals, okay? Maybe you need to think about this and prioritize 10 things you want out of your homeschool. Because of course, if you're a Christian, it's going to be the souls of your children, but you're going to have other goals also. What are those goals? Prioritize them. I've talked about this in my Memorialize Your Victories video. you need to write this down in a place of prominence, not just on a scratch piece of paper that could get thrown away. You need to write this down in a place where you can cherish it, where you can keep coming back to it and reminding yourself. So that's your main goals. But on a year-to-year basis, you may have different goals for your children. That's kind of different than the overall goal. So for example, my middle child this year, we're gonna really be working on her being individually responsible for her own work, because she's just one of those children that I feel like I have to kick in the pants all day long to get her to do things. So that needs to change. She's 6th grade this coming year. She needs to start being responsible, working towards more independence. So I'm going to do that for each of my children individually, and then I'm also going to have yearly goals for my homeschool, for mom. Okay. So last year we had come out of Classical Conversations, which offered very little freedom for me because I was in leadership. So my time was tied up in very specific ways. For me, it felt like I didn't have freedom. It felt like I didn't have time to be fun. I had, my mind space was clogged up with other things. So my goal for this year when we were away from that was, I'm gonna be a fun mom. I gotta concentrate on being fun, because these are the memories that my children are gonna take away with them when they leave our homeschool. And that's one of the things that even Heidi St. John said in her homeschooling held hostage workshop. She talked about how her own daughter, she went through this, and her own daughter came up to her as a representative of all of her other children and said, Mom, you're no fun anymore. You know, now her oldest daughter, being 30 years old, looks at Heidi homeschooling her younger children and says, wow, you are a lot more fun than you were when you were homeschooling us. And Heidi said, yep, because I learned what's important, and it's not the curriculum, and it's not checking off the boxes. It's the souls of your children, it's the relationships with your children, it's the Bible. You are modeling what it is to be a Christian to your children. That is the most important lesson. Heidi also mentioned in her workshop, and she actually mentioned in her keynote speaker too, how, you know, the homeschool mom burnout, the crying, sometimes we're breaking down in tears over the stress because homeschooling is hard. And I realized, you know, my goal this year was to be a fun homeschool mom. Check. I think my children would say I was more fun this year. I intentionally really tried at that. I also really tried this year not to sweat the small stuff. So things that would have bothered me before, I really tried hard to be more laid back for those things and focus more on my relationship with my children rather than perfection, because I am a perfectionist. But I really tried to let that stuff roll off my back. And when Heidi was talking through her presentation about how she had seen the light and she had become more of a fun homeschool mom, I realized, you know what? This is the first year of homeschooling. So my 6th year of homeschooling, this is the first year where I don't think I ever broke down and cried. Like, it's the first year that I didn't have to tell my husband, I can't deal with these kids. I mean, he's working in the basement these days, but when he was back in the office, I would call him sometimes and be like, I can't take it anymore. I need you to talk to them. I'm about to lose it. And he would say, put him on the phone. And he would talk to the kids, and I would just be at my wit's end so many days and experiencing real homeschool mom burnout. I can't really say that I felt super burned out. How awesome is that? Like, I finally figured it out. Be fun and you don't burn out. Don't sweat the small stuff and you don't burn out. I guess I just cracked the code. Focus on Jesus Christ and you won't burn out, because none of that stuff, you know, he's going to fill in the academic gaps. I've heard so many stories, I can't get into this now, but I have heard so many stories where these Christian children whose parents emphasized the right things and where they just excelled academically, even though their parents did not put a huge emphasis on certain subjects. I'm telling you, I have heard these stories, God can do anything. So I am rethinking my family subjects video. I'm rethinking specifically my history. When I redo that part of the video, or the whole video, who knows, I will explain to you what I'm thinking. If this resonated with you at all, this book by Dorinda Wilson, The Unhurried Homeschooler, is where she talks about slowing down. And also this book, Teaching from Rest. Both of these books, they have a little bit of a different approach, but also similar. They're gonna help you hit reset on what your expectations are for your homeschool year if you're having similar thoughts to me. And then Dorinda's got that new book coming out called The 4-Hour Homeschool Day. Also, I did a video called Why You Can Homeschool High School, but I'm telling you, even if you don't have a high schooler, I titled it for high school, but really this video is for anybody. This video is to inspire you for why you can do anything that God has called you to do. You should check that one out. It is super encouraging. We can slow down and we can make our school different. And even if our school is different, our children can still get everything that they need. Until next time, bye.